screening for a documentary based on the life of a Tulsa woman this weekend. The documentary, which is based on the book I Broke Out of Prison by Ratia Rogers, was shown last night at Rubicon Restaurant in North Tulsa. Both are about Rogers' life story. She told us she was in and out of trouble in her youth, then went to prison at 21. Then her life turned around and she eventually became a minister. She tells us her ministry focuses on lifting up the community.
My message to my book and my true life story, my documentary, is that people can fall, but you don't have to stay there. You can get back up in life and try again.
Rogers says the documentary will be available on YouTube. To learn more, check out this story on the free Fox 23 News app.
It's a new year, but the debate over the future of Rikers Island continues to heat up, as well as the debate over criminal justice reforms as city officials and activists discuss what will become of the jail complex. We're joined by Elias Hussein. He's the former president of the city's Correction Officer Union, and he's here to actually talk about his ambitious plan for Rikers and the state of criminal justice in 2023. So when we talk about a plan, you actually have a plan yourself.
Yes.
For Rikers Island and what should happen there. Some people are talking about tearing Rikers down. That's what the city council and the city had said, and build smaller jails.
Right.
But as the former correction officer president, you say no. What's your plan?
Well, there are dozens of proposals as to what to do. Like you said, shut it down, give it to LaGuardia, do this, do this. The New York Times just put out a piece talking about making a casino there. And one of the things that I am proposing is that we actually take and share Rikers Island with a potential tenant, if you want to call them that, which is LaGuardia, maybe the casino people, or maybe even Amazon, because we're talking about almost 13 million square feet of prime real estate. So I believe that it's time for New York City to start looking at criminal justice reform as an investment. If you're really looking to reduce recidivism, rehabilitate people, and end generational incarceration, you're going to have to invest in it. And it's time for people to begin to sit at the table, and let's talk about that. We can take 100 acres of what's now known as Rikers Island, and we can build a campus-style facility where we have not only the jails, but we have a vocational center, we have a mental health facility, we have a hospital, we have you name it, whatever it takes to change the behavior or to help reduce recidivism, that can be done. And it can come at a savings to the city as well.
And I know we have some photos from your proposal that I want us to look at while you continue to talk. But your plan, you're actually talking about rebuilding Rikers, keeping it there, and also having, according to your plan, LaGuardia take at least half of the island to expand LaGuardia Airport. And there's another photo there that shows it, but you have another photo that has the buildings. That one there, that's the new complex that would be on the left.
Yes, that would be the new Rikers Island, and on the right will be LaGuardia, or like I said, Amazon, or like I said, the casino investors. But the reality is we can do that, and the monies that's generated from Amazon, from LaGuardia, can actually go to invest in criminal justice reform, can invest in reducing recidivism in a real way, where we look at we look at what the return of our investment is. And the problem, look, if they can build entire cities in the desert, then we should be able to take this 420 acres and make it something that's beneficial to the city of New York.
Now, you were a member of the correction department for 30 years.
34.
A worker, a union president, right? 34 years.
Yes.
Some people are going to say, well, you stepped away. You're no longer working there. Why is Elias Hussein involved in a plan for Rikers?
Well, here's the reality. I did that for 34 years, and it's something that I continue to do even after I retired. I established a nonprofit reform organization called the Eli Global Reform Foundation to deal with reform. Look, I come from Harlem. I come from the neighborhood. I have family members, very close family members, who are on the other side of the bar and on this side of the bar. The reality is it's a passion of mine, Dean, and it's not going to go away. And this proposal that we have, no one has proposed this. Everybody's proposed, shut it down, tear it down, but nobody's really said, how do we really reduce recidivism? How do we really stop people from coming back and forth to jail? And if you look at that diagram that I have there, we can do that.
So you're talking about scrap the plan of building smaller facilities in the boroughs.
No.
No, you're not saying scrap that plan?
You should continue to have those facilities. Now, they shouldn't be 20 to 30 story high rise. No, because it makes no sense not to have a jail in Manhattan where the courts are. It makes no sense not to have a jail in Queens where the courts are. It makes no sense not to have.
So
you understand what I'm
smaller,
saying?
much smaller.
Smaller. You don't need to go 860, 30 floors. You don't need to do that.
But your plan that you're trying to get support for, and then you've told me you've met with some elected officials.
Yes.
Rebuilding, putting new buildings on Rikers.
Yes.
Does that include a courthouse on Rikers? Because that's been a part of the problem.
Those
getting
buildings,
people to the courts in all of the boroughs.
What we're proposing that on that island with those 15 buildings, we have a courthouse. We're proposing that we have a transportation. We're proposing that we have a transitional re-entry so that 30, 60 days before it's time for these guys to go home, that we begin to help them immediately by putting them in transitional and helping them get a job and helping them do interviews. Those only 4 of the 15 buildings are jails. All the other buildings are about helping reduce recidivism and rehabilitation.
Final question for you, because I know you're going to get a lot of questions about this coming week. You're having a forum.
Yes.
Very briefly, tell us
Yes.
about the forum, who will be there, and what's the goal?
On Thursday at 1 o'clock, I'm having a forum to actually present this proposal to the city. The press will be there, and it's going to be at 521 West 23rd Street, and it's from 1 to 5. And at that proposal, we're going to lay it out completely where there will be no questions.
All right. A lot of people are hearing about it first here because that's
Yes.
invitation only, and people really cannot show up, but they'll hear more about it.
Yes, and they can go on LinkedIn and they can go on Facebook because it's there. The link to sign up is there.
And the name of the forum, so Jeff, very quickly.
The name of the forum is How We Can Win, Rikers Island and New York City Jails.
Elias Husam-Medine, thank you for joining us on New York
Thank you,
One.
Dean.
Come on, walk to my car. Walk to my car.
Why you saying that but pulling me? So go on and drag me, because that's what you're doing
If you
anyway.
ain't walking, just walk to my
How you
car.
gonna tell me that but you pulling me as you said
Miss
it didn't
Marshall,
say it yet?
Well, we're just trying to lead you over here this way.
Okay, you
Okay,
doing
so
it too.
let's
I feel the force
go
on you
this way.
too.
Don't be nasty.
That's y'all department. Welcome home.
Don't be nasty.
Your man, if you gonna call me nasty, your man,
I'm not calling you nasty. I'm saying don't be nasty.
No, don't tell me what not to be when y'all doing it to me.
Right here, so I can put this.
Yeah.
Do you have anything on you that can harm me, poke me, stick me?
Miss Marshall, come on, get out the car.
When the I got the right to get out the car when I had a right to get in the car?
Miss Marshall, get out the car. Come on.
Go get some
Miss
dick.
Marshall, I'm gonna drag you out of this car.
I already know.
I don't want
want
to drag you
drag
out,
me.
but I need you to come
I
get out
want
the car.
you
So we
to
can
do
inside.
what you did off the porch of the doctor's office.
Come on.
Drag me.
Come on.
I want you to drag me.
Come
yeah.
on.
I ain't
Kick your
putting
feet
in
out.
I ain't kicking it out. Next you be telling me to open my legs for your dumb.
Come on.
Yeah, that's what you gonna have to do. That's what you did at the porch. That's what you want to do, and I want you to get that feeling. Guess why? Because I was raised a tomboy in Central
Come
Park
on.
projects. So guess what? I'm used to
Stand
being
up.
rough. Yep. You
Stand
want
up.
me by your don't you?
Stand up.
You want me by, you can't pick my big
Stand-
ass up, can you? That's what the officer was jealous
Stand
of.
up, come on.
He couldn't pick my big ass up. He was jealous of my big ass. You want me in this position, don't you? I'm a tomboy. Such a ball grind. You ain't hurting me at all. CPV, no. Central Park projects, tomboy. Jump walls, hung on the roof. Nigga, man, because you can't pick my big ass up.
Hey, you fat as
And look, I went to Allwood High School. Guess how much I lift weights? 130 pounds. Bitch, I bet you can't even bench 130 calories. That's why your officer was mad. He could see I lift the weights at Allwood. He don't like my build. You Bob was the motherfucking
All
officer that
weapons
arrested me. Shit. Yep. And tell Deputy she got some fucking nerves to think I would want to be a deputy. I went into motherhood, fuck a deputy.
Do what?
I grew up around officers doing dumb shit.
Yeah, she ain't walking, so I mean, I can drag her in, but
deputy for you want to look into being a deputy. What the fuck? I'm gonna have to arrest my whole family. Everybody I know. Shit. Because officers don't break the law.
All right.
Okay. They don't break the law.
Good morning.
Whatever.
A little over a week, New Yorkers will be able to buy marijuana legally. Governor Kathy Hochul says the first dispensary will open at 750 Broadway in Manhattan on December 29th. It will run by Housing Works, the nation's largest minority-controlled HIV and AIDS service organization. The governor says the cannabis industry will provide revenue for schools and community development. Since March, 280 family farmers have been granted licenses to grow adult-use cannabis.
It's a one-of-a-kind program that allows parents in custody to spend time with their kids outside of a jail setting. Today, 8 women serving time at Rikers got to spend time with their little ones at the Children's Museum of Manhattan. CBS 2's Jennifer Bisram has the exclusive story.
Take your time, okay?
From Rikers Island in Queens to the Children's Museum of Manhattan on the Upper West Side,
You're not going to film our faces, okay?
incarcerated women traveled nearly 16 miles for an off-site visit to bond with their kids Monday. Only CBS 2 cameras were allowed in to capture the supervised reunion.
These individuals are going to be coming back to their communities, and we want them to come back and reintegrate back into their communities better than how they were received in the justice system.
Kids are supposed to be with their mom.
Elizabeth Tomlinson is a detainee on Rikers Island for an assault charge. It was the first time she saw her boys since being locked up.
I think this is a real good learning experience for me. Yeah, I needed this.
Javon Segreti is doing time for robbery. She's transgender.
And a lot of parents, including my child's mother, doesn't want her to see that. She doesn't want Miracle to see me in a jumpsuit. She doesn't want Miracle to see police officers all around the place and ask questions.
The Department of Correction and the Children's Museum of Manhattan say this program gives incarcerated parents quality time with their kids in a way that visits on Rikers Island don't allow.
On Rikers, it's a very structured visit. It's for 1 hour. They sit across from each other.
For 2 hours, 8 women in custody ate lunch with their kids, did arts and crafts with them, sang together, and held each other tight.
So I think it gives them something to fight for.
It's very important that children have an opportunity to bond and connect with their parents, especially during these very challenging times when families can get really ripped apart.
DOC officials say the program, called Family Connections, has recently been expanded to male inmates on the island as well. Jennifer Bisram, CBS 2 News.
The program started back in 2018, but was paused during the pandemic. It resumed in October. That was the third family connection for inmates since.
Right now, some Clayton County employees are without a job after an investigation looking into the death of a Clayton County inmate. 38-year-old Terry Lee Thurman died in November. The GBI says he tried to jump from a balcony. When officers tried to stop him, that's when the struggle started. Officers then tased Thurman and he was taken to the hospital where he died. A GBI criminal investigation is still ongoing.
Powerless.
Carolyn Richardson was a federal inmate in New York City, serving time for drug charges. She went blind behind bars after staff failed to get her proper medical attention, which later led to a $2 million settlement. She says her loss of sight made her even more vulnerable to a corrections officer who was later convicted of sexually abusing her.
I felt worthless, like I was something less than human.
I spoke with Richardson after her powerful testimony.
I want to be the voice for my fellow, ladies back that's incarcerated.
Richardson's experience is not an isolated incident, according to the findings in this bipartisan Senate investigation released today. It found that Bureau of Prison employees sexually abused female prisoners in at least 19 of the 29 federal prisons that house women over the last 10 years.
The BOP is failing systemically.
It's our responsibility. We can't turn our face from it.
Linda De La Rosa was formerly incarcerated at a Kentucky federal prison, where she says she was sexually abused by a corrections officer. She says that former officer stayed on the job for years despite the abuse. He's now serving 135 months in prison.
I really want the system to change.
Both women tell me they hope by speaking up, they can help other women at risk. Now, what is your message to the senators on this committee and to other lawmakers who have the power to make a change here?
I hope to take what we have to say today seriously. I just hope that they're able to find a safe way for women to report those type of incidents.
In response to the report, the director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons says she welcomes accountability and oversight. She says the Bureau is training employees on how to report misconduct and is assessing how they screen employee candidates. In Washington, Samantha Manning, Channel 2 Action News.
2 in 3 inmates in state and federal prisons do more than just serve time behind bars. They also work, according to a report by the American Civil Liberties Union. Verify viewer Deb recently emailed us to ask if that work still includes making license plates. So Deb, let's verify. Our sources are the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators, Corrections Department and Prison Industries programs in several states, and Jennifer Turner with the ACLU. For more than a century, federal and state governments have used prisoners for their labor. In 1918, Michigan began one of the first programs to have inmates make license plates, and the concept took off during the Great Depression. These days, our sources estimate that inmates make license plates in half to 2/3 of states, including California, where prisoners make more than 2 million plates a year. In some states, they even do a lot more for the DMV.
Incarcerated workers also respond to DMV calls for a number of these states. They produce and manufacture other equipment as well.
So, yes, incarcerated people make license plates. The program isn't without controversy. The ACLU says most workers typically make less than $1 an hour and may have their pay docked to cover outstanding court fines. Still, corrections officials generally tout these programs because they provide work experience that inmates can use once they're released. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Slavery may sound like an issue of the past, but ballot measures in 5 states show it remains relevant in 2022. You might have seen this viral tweet out of Memphis announcing that slavery has just now been banned in Tennessee. Some people replied to that tweet saying, as surreal as it sounds, slavery remains technically legal in the vast majority of states. So is that true? Are some forms of slavery still legal in America? To verify, we read the U.S. Constitution, several state constitutions, and the ballot measures in question. And we spoke with one of the lead supporters of those measures. The form of slavery that most people are familiar with in American history, where human beings could be considered legal property, is called chattel slavery. That was banned in 1865 when the 13th Amendment was ratified. But the text of the amendment contains a huge exception. Here's what it says, quote, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction.
And so what that means is that so long as you've been convicted of a crime, you can still legally be enslaved.
That's Bianca Tylek. She heads up Worth Rises, a group dedicated to prison reform. She says because of this exception clause, prisoners can be forced to work for little or no pay. So she and others are backing federal legislation to remove that clause. To do so would require another national constitutional amendment. Advocates are also working to change state constitutions, many of which have similar language.
Across the U.S., there are some states that explicitly allow slavery according to the same exception clause in the 13th Amendment. Others are silent on the issue, which means that the 13th Amendment basically reigns for all of its citizens.
And that's how we ended up with ballot measures like the one in Tennessee and 4 other states in this election. Voters approved all but one of them. 3 other states passed similar measures in the last 4 years. Prior to that, only Rhode Island had explicitly banned all forms of slavery.
Outside of those 8 states, slavery is certainly legal.
So we can verify, yes, some forms of slavery are still legal in America. Now, even in those 8 states, prison labor has actually largely continued as normal. Many states argue that requiring prisoners to work or face punishment still wouldn't legally constitute slavery. Those arguments will have to be hashed out in court. But in the meantime, advocates say removing any exceptions and unequivocally banning slavery is simply an important human rights issue. With your Verify, I'm Casey Decker.